Now, 10 days ago, she had a soft launch for her book on the evolution of spying. Well, on Sunday, she has the main launch at Bletchley Park in the National Museum of Computing, a place she knows well from when she was a volunteer guide down there with agents, aliens and spies. Philomena Liggins. How nice to meet you, Philomena.
It's nice to meet you as well, Bernie.
So were you already writing about Bletchley and associated topics when you were a guide, or did Bletchley inspire you to go deeper?
Bletchley inspired me to go deeper because once you get there, you just get sucked in. And once people tell you about code breaking, you think, well, how did code breaking start? And then you go back and back and back, and it's been going for centuries. But the main aim of this book was to follow how the British Secret Service evolved through the years.
And I think with Spies, we conjure up images of glamour, of danger, of deception, and an overall sense maybe of good over bad. But there's a devious mind at play here. There's a love of sabotage, there's deception, and there's betrayal.
Of course. And I think there's more betrayal goes on than actually meets the eye. You think of the wonderful James Bond, and he has good over evil, but it depends what the evil is and what the good is. Yeah. So one person's agent is another person's spy and another person's traitor. And
I associate Bletchley with World War II, but you take it back, way back to Tudor times.
Yes.
Sources of spying that we had at the turn of the last century, and we'll talk about how it's evolved to now, were the Post Office, the Royal Navy, the Army and Special Branch at the start of the 20th century. How come the Post Office?
Because it was the King's Post. And the King's Post was the fact that you got messages for the King that were secure messages and swift. So it was called the King's Post. It was then called the Queen's Post under Queen Elizabeth. And if you've got a postal service and you've got an opening service, then you can read other people's mails. So again, even if it's in code or cipher, you employ a cryptographer who can then break into that cipher. And of course, as we know about poor old Mary Queen of Scots, they broke into her cipher, but not only did they do that, they forged a postscript at the end of her letter, which led to her trial and her death.
And that was the start of spying, was it, that era?
No, everybody's spied, but I picked on the Tudor range because most people enjoy reading about the Tudors. And of course, Walsingham himself was called the father of the British Secret Service.
This is Sir Francis Walsingham, yes. Who served Queen Elizabeth I. What was the Throckmorton plot?
There were a number of plots. The Throckmorton plot was to put their Queen Mary, Queen of Scots, on the throne. And of course, the Spanish were all involved in that as well. Most of the people that were involved with any plot against the Queen lost their head, their arms and their innards.
Their job then, such as it was to support the monarch and keep the monarch on the throne, was it?
Their chosen monarch.
Yeah.
If the monarch that they chose to serve, they would keep them on the throne.
Did they flip-flop? Did they go between House of Lancashire,
yes,
House of...
yes, they could do that. They wanted
York?
To keep their own head on their shoulders and their own innards inside as well.
And Walsingham disposed of Mary Queen of Scots, but then he had the Spanish Armada to contend with.
Yes, and he had quite a decent spy called Anthony Standen, who he paid £300 a year.
From his own pocket?
From his own pocket. And subsequently, when Walsingham died, because he had so many foreign spies, he died bankrupt.
And who were these foreign spies? Were they part of the network within the forces, the Armada and such like, the Navy?
They were anybody. They were opportunists. They were travellers, adventurers. They were generally well-educated people because only 15% of people could write at the time, and you needed to get your messages back to your spy master. So those messages did take rather a long time, especially if you were abroad.
Before him, we have Cardinal John Morton and Robert Cecil. Who was John Morton?
John Morton, he was an equally good spy. He more or less set the spy networks up in the United Kingdom and abroad. He was one of those who'd been a Yorkist and then a Lancastrian in order to keep his own head. And he also made quite a bit of money himself.
Because he shouldn't have been around. I mean, he died at 80, didn't he? A long life. But he was sent to the Tower of treason.
No, I think he died of natural causes.
But he had been sent to the Tower, hadn't he?
Oh, he had him. Yes,
and he
sorry.
escaped.
Yes,
charged with treason.
Yes, he'd been around a long time, and he had managed to keep his head firmly on his shoulders.
And Cecil? We know him here in the county, don't we?
They're quite dark characters, especially Robert Cecil. You think of Walsingham as being a dark character, but Cecil would send one of his own to the scaffold in order to keep his own head and his power, which happened to the Cecils. They did manage to keep their head and a lot of power.
And was it that Cecil who thwarted the gunpowder plot?
Robert Cecil, yes. But was he agent provocateur? You don't know, do you?
Well, there is a lot of that in this book, isn't there?
Yes.
What were they really?
Yes. And I ask questions of people because we make our own minds up. We read the newspaper, we hear the news. You're not too sure, even though you do your research and you double and triple check. Whoever's written that first paper, are they telling the truth?
Well, someone like Mata Hari, you call spying in the book, in Agents, Aliens and Spies, you call it the second oldest profession.
I thought this might come up.
The oldest being prostitution.
Yes.
And Mata Hari was an exotic dancer, yeah?
She was. Yes.
And that was...
She was very exotic.
Yeah. So that meant that she had different aliases. She had loads of suitors.
Yes. So you could call her a prostitute. But she made a living. She was well brought up until the age of 11. She was multilingual, well educated. Her father went bankrupt and her relations didn't really get on with her. She married when she was 18. She had 2 children.
Dutch, yeah?
She was
Dutch.
She was Dutch, yes. She had 2 children. She thought life was going to be good to her, but it wasn't. And she suddenly realised that if she sold her charms, she could have a lifestyle that she enjoyed. And she earned a lot of money through her dancing and, of course, through her friends.
Well, she became aristocracy, didn't she? Was Russian aristocracy.
She went out with a Russian until he found out who she was, and then he decided that he would ditch her because her friend said she was a prostitute.
She had different aliases, didn't she?
She did. She took on lots of aliases. She became lots of different people. She was an actress, so she could act her way through anything that she wanted to get into and out of, apart, sadly, from the fact that I firmly believe that she was a scapegoat. She was used by the French, and it was inferred by the British that she was a German spy.
Because the British were onto her, weren't they?
They were. They were onto her because she'd travelled, which was an odd journey. She was going to Paris, so she left the Netherlands. She landed in the United Kingdom, and they said, "Where are you going?" And she was going to Paris, and they thought that was a bit of an odd route. And because she was an alien, she was a foreign visitor, they checked her details and they sent her back to France. And I think that's when they first began to think that she was a spy, because she kept company with Belgians, French, Germans, Russians. So it was easy enough to think that she was a spy. And of course, she did take money from the Germans.
In the Victorian era, we had changes with trade, with commerce, and with technology. Technology runs through this book, doesn't it?
It does.
The way that change have been brought on language, communication, and therefore on spying. So from that era, we had names like Samuel Morse, Marconi, and John Pender. 2 of those I know, John Pender I don't. What was he?
He was a Scotsman, and he was a textile merchant in Salford, near Manchester, or Greater Manchester as it is now. And he fetched in raw cotton So he got the raw material that he needed to fetch in up the Manchester Ship Canal to the mills in Salford. And then once the cotton was created into thread, he then sold the thread. He also sold the products that the cotton made. And what he needed to do was keep in contact with his suppliers abroad and his customers. So he got involved with the technology of the time, which was cable. We now know it as the World Wide Web.
He was the start of the World Wide Web.
Yes.
How amazing.
And he put his money where his mouth was and invested his own money. And I think by the time he died, his companies owned a third of the cable network around the world.
Wow. The last name in the book proper is John Stonehouse.
Yes.
From my lifetime, 75, was it? 74, 75, with the clothes on the beach?
I can't remember what date it was, but if the clothes on the beach.
It was that, wasn't it?
Yes.
He went missing and then was presumed dead.
Yes, they thought they were looking for Lord Lucan, weren't they?
Yeah, and the Prime Ministers, it's from Wilson to Thatcher,
Yes.
they all knew of him.
Yes.
They all knew what he was doing.
Yes.
And what was he doing?
He was giving information to then the Czechs. So he was outed as a Czech spy by one of the Czech spy masters. That was under Harold Wilson. And he was brought into Wilson's office. He was questioned and he said, no, sir, I didn't do it. And he was let off. The information was then obviously kept somewhere safe. Margaret Thatcher was told about it and she decided that it wasn't really a good idea to make it public. But it did get out into the public.
These things do.
We know that, don't we?
Well, we do now. That phrase, no, sir, I didn't do it, it seems to be as old as time, doesn't it?
Yes.
Well, it's a lovely book. You've got the big launch at Bletchley.
We have.
How long were you there for?
I was a tour guide there for 7 years.
You dressed up and everything, didn't you?
I did. Yes. Even the stockings.
It's a great place, isn't it? It's a wonderful place to visit. And you're there for the big launch. People can get the book now, can't they? It's Agents, Aliens and Spies, A Secret History of British Intelligence by Toaster's Philomena Liggins. It's published by Hidden Talent Publishing and it's £25, but shop around because you will always get bargains. Hope you have a nice time on Sunday, yeah?
Thank you very much indeed.
It's nice to meet you, Philomena. Thank you very much.
Pleasure to meet you.